Hello, everyone. We are back. We're back with another guest for another episode of Casual Conversations with Comic Creators. So this is the mayamada show, where each month I speak to a different comic creator about their work, about their journey, what goes into making comics. It's very casual. It's very comic focused. Here you are. So it's all about showcasing the human being behind the art as we discover each person's story, or rediscover in this case. So I'm the mayamada co-founder, Nigel, and tonight, at least by UK time tonight, I am going to be speaking with Dominique Duong, who is an illustrator and comic artist based in London. Her work has been published by Self-Made Hero, Queensbury Press and Limit Break Comics, among others, and has won the Broken Frontier 6 Small Press Creators to Watch in 2020. And her comic Dog the Cat was nominated for an Ignatz, if I'm pronouncing that right, Ignatz?
So
Yeah, that's an odd word, but congratulations, Ignatz Award.
thank you.
And she's currently working on her debut graphic novel Patchwork, which is set to be published by Jonathan Cape later next year. Is it next year?
Uh, Potentially, maybe in 2027. I'm not too sure now at this
Okay,
point, but
cool.
either next year or 2027.
All right, question mark. We got it, but it's coming. It's coming. So
Yeah.
yeah, we got it. So yeah, Dominique, how is it going? How have you been?
Yeah, been good, been good. Like really busy. Been doing a lot of markets and like cons and fairs this year, and obviously working on patchwork mainly in terms of work. So that's been quite an undertaking so far.
I can imagine. In what sense? You mean just like doing the work or all the other stuff around it? Like doing the
Uh,
comic work, the art, or
I'd say, yeah, like all of it, all of it really. Both the making of it because it's my first time doing like I've only done short comics up until now, so this is my first time doing a long form comic work, and
mm,
I did end up making it nearly 300 pages, so
whoa.
it's a big one as
That's a
well.
big book.
Yeah, for a first graphic novel. So yeah, it's been quite an undertaking, yeah, but I feel like I've learned a lot from it as well.
Okay, we're gonna dive into that in that story in a moment. But because I know you were at an event recently, and I know that because I was also at the event, we can start there. So yeah, we just did the Con event. So that was in London, near or in Hammersmith. That was the first time. First time event. And how did you find it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like it was the first Dojin Con they ever did, so I wasn't really sure what to expect from it. Like
Mm,
I was sharing a table with my friend as well, so I
mm,
think that also helped with, like having a good time and everything. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Saturday was quite busy as Saturday usually is for weekend con, and yeah, it was just like a nice, like, busy but also still chill as well. Like if you were to compare it to MCM
mm.
London, it's like obviously a much smaller con, but it still
Yeah.
felt like like a decent size as well, like not too small. And then like decent level of footfall and everything, and just like
Mm.
yeah, it was really fun and everything. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, and like for you, what was your decision in going to that convention and just conventions in general? Like, what determines whether you'll go to one or not?
So I think I saw Dojin like online first when someone in a Discord group for like, sharing when cons and markets are open for applications
Yeah, yeah.
posted like their Instagram like post looking for exhibitors. So I like clicked the link, took a look at it, and like, you know, and saw that like, it's like for cons like relatively affordable to get in. Plus they like explicitly allowed sharing tables as well. So I thought
Okay.
like, oh, let's see, like, might check this out. So see if my friend wants to do it and share the table cost with me as well, and I just check it out. And
Mm,
yeah, I'm really glad I did because it was like a good time and like fairly busy as well. I mean, in terms of like what makes me decide whether to do it, get into a con or not, I mean, I think probably one of the first ones is like affordability. Like, can I afford the table fee? And if so, do I think I'm likely to like, make back my costs and, make enough of profit from the days that I'm there and everything? And then also like location to because like I need to be able to get there and get there easily and everything, and then also how much is travel going to cost me? Do I need to pay for accommodation as well? So that's
mm,
all like
yeah.
big factors and everything into as well.
Yeah, no, I feel that it's because I remember when I started doing conventions and I would stay within London because it was just everything you said, and then I realized like sometimes you have to stretch out, but then it does come with extra costs, especially if it's like if it's a one day, that's one thing, but if it's like multiple days, if it's a couple of days, and you're really doing like 3 days away, so it's like the travel and then staying
Mhm.
over, it's yeah, it just made me realize how much of the other stuff goes into yeah just comics and putting your work out because once you've got it like the book or whatever the comic the graphic novel it's like that's only part of the journey you have to actually go and get it seen and that it comes with a whole another set of skills. Do you enjoy that part, the non-making comics part?
I mean, in terms of going to cons and like markets and like, putting myself out there, like for the most part, I do enjoy that. And especially like, because I also do like, the odd like art market or
Mm,
like pride events, like queer markets as well, which aren't necessarily strictly, comics and zines. Like I do particularly enjoy doing like more specific like comic and zine fairs and then like cons as well because obviously a lot of people who come there are looking for comics and zines
yeah.
are into that kind of stuff, and it's like it's cool to meet people who are interested in that kind of thing, be able to talk about that sort of stuff or like related things, and to be able to talk about my work with them as well. So I do enjoy that aspect, like when it like like clicks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. What's the reaction you get from like the more markets? Because that's not necessarily a comic audience. Do you get a
Mm.
different? I imagine you get a different response than you would do at a typical comic convention.
Yeah, I would say so because, well, for one thing, like less people coming to
Yeah,
the
that's true. But
table.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Less
yeah,
cosplayers too, I imagine.
yeah, and like for the stuff I sell at markets, I think I do best when it is like comics and zine fairs or like queer markets or pride events or cons and such, because like that's my kind of target audience. And then for more like sort of regular art market thing, yeah, like less people come over, and then like I think some of the people also not necessarily into comics as much. I mean, they
Mm.
still like the art I have on show and everything, and sometimes they'll like to come over, check it out, say, "Oh, this is really nice. Did you make all
Did you
this
make? Yeah, yeah.
as well?"
Is this you? Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
Just all of it. All of it. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, that's kind of the more common reaction, I'd say, at a more like regular sort of art market as well.
Right. Yeah. That's always a funny one when people go like, did you make this? And I don't know if you have the same in your mind. I'm like, yeah, of course. Why else would I be here? But it does kind of show that I guess people we're not used to maybe we're not used to seeing creators because I guess the typical thing is you go into a shop, right, and someone's just working there, and that's the usual interaction we have with the things that we buy.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I guess it does make sense. It's a bit
yeah.
annoying. I find it a bit annoying, but that's just me. Um, and then like so speaking of your work, actually, I probably should sort of go there and just explain because you mentioned your audience sort of like queer. Do you say like queer markets or queer events specifically, or
I'd say both because like I've done like sometimes done like small local pride events and then also more specific like queer markets where it's like it's specifically a market and specifically of like queer art and such. So I've
right?
done I've done like a mix of both.
Okay. So then, how would you describe your work, sort of both visually and when it comes to the subject matter?
Visually, I'd say my work definitely has like an anime and manga influence, although not strictly like I mean, I kind of hate the term anime style because obviously, obviously there's some hallmarks to an anime style,
Yeah.
but there's also so much variety as well. Like you can't compare
Yeah.
Berserk to Sailor Moon. Like they're both like manga and anime, but they're both completely different visually.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would say like my style is influenced by anime, and then
Mm.
also like it's because I really love like detailed line drawing, then there's a heavy focus on line work. And nowadays also my work can often be quite like bright and colorful as well, which it hasn't always
Mm.
been. Like I used to be quite uncomfortable with coloring and not very confident with it, and try to mostly stick to black and white, which I still do as well
Okay.
nowadays. But as time has gone on, I've become more confident as a colorist, and I
Sure.
like in my life I really love like bright colors as well.
But not felt comfortable enough to put it in your work.
Not until like more recent years when I've grown more like confident as a colorist. So
Right.
like yeah.
And what was that? What was was that like a skill difference or something that you hadn't practiced enough of?
I think both of those things
Hmm.
because I'm trying to think back to when I was younger and such, and
Yeah.
I think I just wasn't like I don't know. I think like coloring is not something that comes like very instinctually for me. Like coloring, and then also because it's tied into it as well, like lighting as well, because lighting affects coloring and such.
Hmm.
And I think it's not like a natural instinct for me, like it is with some artists. And so in the past, when I tried to color things, I think because I don't know, I was thinking in very like binary terms, like say,
Hmm.
oh, this apple is red, this character's shirt is blue, and what those colors are. And then when I'd color something, I'd look at it and it's like I don't understand why this doesn't look good. But
Hmm.
color is greatly affected by lighting as well. And then I
Right.
think also like I just needed to learn to like simplify color palettes as well, and like learn a bit more of color theory too. It's like don't have too many colors, like have color that's appropriate for the lighting and such. But back then I didn't really understand that kind of thing either, so I wasn't very good at it. And so I would also try and avoid it as well by
Yeah.
doing black and white or doing like more like monochrome, like monochrome, like it's all blues and purples, or like with the dog and the cat I made that mostly pink.
Let's keep it simple. Keep it
Yeah, yeah,
simple.
to just make it easier for myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, like, it wasn't anything like, some sort of major breakthrough I had, but just over time, I think I just kind of started absorbing, like, lessons I've seen online, or like, more about color theory, or observing more about, like, actual color in real life as well. And I started to feel more confident in, like, coloring too. I mean, I'd still say I'm not like an amazing colorist or anything, but I'm definitely better than I used to be.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's the aim, right? Is being better than you used to be. And it's interesting as we record and live stream this today. Earlier today I was at a I was doing a comic workshop. So we've done a 2 day workshop, and I've got another one coming up next week. Um, and I think for me, in doing this, I get to talk to people like you who are doing it and who are there, and then get to work with like young people who want to do more of it, and like seeing that journey, because you said like things you're not confident in, and I kind of saw some of that as well, where people avoid, like some of the kids avoid some of the things they're confident. And one of the things I've noticed, like, I don't know if it's the same, maybe it's not the exact same consideration because it's like your sort of professional and different considerations, but um, I'm surprised that kids don't color as much. Like they seem to, like, sometimes say, don't you want to add some color? And they'll be like, no, I'm good. Just keep it black and white. Right, okay. I feel that's what you what kids do, just color stuff in. So maybe that's the same thing. It just stays with you. Did you color when you were a kid?
Like, when I think about, like, when I was a much like younger, smaller kid,
Yeah.
yeah, I did color a lot more, like color pencils, like felt tip pens and such, because like I wasn't worried about being like, good or amazing or anything. I was just drawing because it was fun. And so
Mm,
when I didn't have that sort of like worry about, like, oh, this doesn't look good or anything, or because, as like, I mean, as a kid I always thought like, oh, this looks great. And so I didn't worry about any of that. But I think when I started getting older and I was thinking about, like, I want to improve my art, I want to, like, study art or go into a career, then I think more of that stuff started, like, you know getting harder, and I
yeah.
was actually thinking about it more.
Mm. That's a really good point actually. When we think about it more, then it becomes harder. I think there's a philosophical thing in there. I feel, I don't know, something about keeping childlike wonder. I don't know. So you've got something coming up, like we mentioned, patchwork, and you
Mhm.
said it's your debut like graphic novel. So like of this
Mhm.
type, of this size, and then you've got it's coming through a publisher. I guess you're going through that whole process. So I'm interested to know about like the actual work, like making the comic, but then also, like I said at the beginning, the selling of it, the promotion of it. We'll start with the work itself. Like, can you tell us what the story is, like what it's about?
Yes, so Patchwork is like a queer fantasy romance set in like a fictional sort of mostly mundane but with touches of fantasy kind of world. And you have the one of the main characters, Ezra. He lives in this like little tiny village. He's recently lost his father, but they had quite a difficult relationship, and so he's been he's been struggling dealing with those feelings of, like, of grieving for his father, but also, they didn't have a very good relationship either. And, he's dealing with a lot of complex feelings about that. And then the other main character, Tien, he comes to the village and he's something like a witch. He calls himself a patchworker, so a witch that specializes in the mending of things, whether it's like, real things like clothing or tools or toys, but also the more emotional, psychological things as well. And the two of them meet, and they, as like, they kind of, well, butt heads at the beginning, because Ezra
Mm,
thinks, because this is a very low fantasy kind of world that, like, witches and magicians are not very common at all. And so
Right.
Ezra thinks like, oh, this guy's like a con artist, like preying on
Okay.
like vulnerable people.
Oh, so he's not
And so
expecting to see a witch or anyone dealing with magic.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. And because they're not very common in this world. And, there's a lot of people going around claiming that they're witches, but, they are actual con artists. And so that's what he thinks, like, Tien is at first. But over time, they begin to get to know each other, like gain an understanding, become friends. And then it also starts evolving into something more. But, like, Tien also, like, he presents this sort of uh persona as being very put together. He's got everything sorted out, but he's also carrying some dark secrets of his own.
Mm.
And the book, although it's a romance, I'd say it's also a book that deals with like grief and dealing with the sort of difficult legacies that your parents leave you when they're gone.
Mm. Yeah, that's quite a heavy topic. Also, highly relatable. That feels familiar. But yeah, that's for. I mean, I was going to say for a first novel, but I mean, what is this the go-to topic for first graphic novel? But yeah, that is quite a heavy topic. And you said it's a long story, like 300 pages, right?
Yeah, yeah, like I guess I didn't really know where to stop with it, so it ended up kind of long.
So was that a case of, because I know I've done I get started, I think it's going to be a certain number of pages. Actually, once I get there, it's a lot more pages. I've never done anything as long as 300 pages. So was that a target, or was that, as you, what was the target if not that, and then how did you get to that length? Because that's a serious, like, not to add any pressure, but that's a serious amount of pages.
I didn't really have a target in mind in terms of how long it was going to be. I just, at the beginning, I wrote up the synopsis for it, like for like pitching to the publisher, and
Mm,
sort of and figured out the story there. And then after that, after that, it was a matter of like writing the script. And like when I started writing the script, it just kind of it was already I already had everything plotted out because I wrote a synopsis before for pitching it, and
mm,
so it just kind of ended up being nearer that length. Well, at the beginning, it was actually closer to something like 200 and I don't know
okay.
60 or 80 odd pages, but because like I don't know, I ended up changing quite a lot of like page layouts and compositions along the way, and so because I was cramming too much stuff into individual pages, and so that's
Mm.
how it kind of also ended up being longer as well. Like it went from 260 to 280 odd to 300 because I kept adding more pages to space out the actual visual action on the actual pages more.
Yeah, that makes sense because you have, I guess it's that consideration of allowing the reader to, like, visually, like, with their eyes, sort of take things in rather than just, like, throwing everything at them. So, and when you make the comic, because again, referring back to this session, so when we do them, or I give like tips along the way. Depends how what the engagement is like with the group, but this was a pretty engaged group. So one of the things I said to them is that it would help if you have an idea of where your story's going or how your story might end. Knowing that not everything is like universal, there's not like one way to make comics, but from your approach, particularly with this length of story, did you already have an idea of how it was going to end, or are you the type of creator who you're like going with the flow almost?
I'd say in these specific set of circumstances it's slightly different because Jonathan Cade, the publisher like I'm doing patchwork with, they contacted me asking if I had any graphic novel ideas that that'd be interested in like pitching to them.
Mm,
And so patchwork was created in mind with pitching to Jonathan Cape. And when you're pitching to like publishers, you need to know everything about the story more or less and how
right.
it ends, so, or the main plot beats and everything, what happens at the beginning, the middle, or the end, and everything. So like because I was specifically creating it to pitch, to pitch to Jonathan Cape, I had to know everything that was going to happen. With like, if I was doing my own personal project, I think I would want to know the sort of main beats of the story, like, you
Mm.
know, how the story starts, maybe some stuff that happens in the middle, and, you know, I would hope to know what the ending is. But like I probably wouldn't be as like strictly like knowing every single thing that happens in the story, like right from beginning to end as well, because you know,
Mm.
in the case of a personal project, I'm not making it for anybody but myself, and I don't
Yourself,
need to
right?
be as strict with just myself.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I think I've sort of taken the approach of I'm just thinking about the stories because we've got a lot of volume one. We've got a series of volume ones with different stories within our universe, and then just thinking about how they're going to evolve. So I think I've got a for each. I've got a rough idea of how they. At least, actually, I've got a rough idea of how they end in terms of like plotting, or I'd say maybe a loose idea. Maybe it's not even a rough idea; it's a loose idea. Um, but but a strong idea of how they end thematically, like and what the message is for each. Because my thing, or one of the things I like to focus on is like what is the message, and not in like a sort of preachy way, like you must do this or don't do that, but what is the what is the theme I'm exploring through these characters. So by the end, like for each, I know what I'm trying to say through the journey of the characters. And then what I've realized recently with some of the smaller stories that we've done is that once I start going, and this is why extra pages get added on, then I realize like, oh, actually, this character, this journey to meet needs to take a bit longer, and then you wind up with more pages. So it's almost like a case of like letting the story tell you what it is. If that makes sense. I don't know if you do feel that
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, definitely. Because like if I don't know, when you start getting to know the characters more, then that can also change the direction of the story, or at least like the maybe the presentation of certain scenes that you might have already had in mind as well, because then as you write and develop more of the story, you get to know the characters better and
Yeah.
how they would react, and then also how the themes of the story would fit in with the character too.
Yeah, and I think that is the key is like you get to know the characters better. So we're doing a project, sort of I'd say like an external project. So it's a comic project, but we're being commissioned by another organization to make it for them, and that's a whole different process in itself. But as I'm just like going through outlining, there's certain characters where as I'm sketching, not like visually sketching, but sketching out in my mind the outline, you start to think of actually this character is more like this personality. I'm gonna sort of dial this bit up with them so they're different from this character who's more like this personality. And I find myself going through that process, which is quite a fun process because I don't know how do you visualize like stories? Do you because I think of them as almost like films playing in my head, but then I don't draw. So I wonder for you, do you think that's well, or do you just go straight to sketching things out?
I think like a lot of the time, a lot of my stories are usually born like from the characters first. Well, like I come up with the characters first, which I mean, it could be anything from like, you know, a little idea of like, oh, this is like a witch kind of character, or this is a demon. But then I usually end up sketching, like really roughly, like doodling them first, just so I can put a face, even if it's only a temporary one,
Mm.
to the character. And then from there I can start like developing them a bit more, like figuring out personality and like
Yeah,
what their role in the story is. And from there I can start like, yeah, I do sort of mentally visualize where I can see what's happening in the story. And then if I'm like writing, if I'm at the script writing stage,
mm.
then I also storyboard at the same time, so I'll know what's happening like per, like, you know, actions and scenes happening per page and everything.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. And then, how long does a 300-page graphic novel take to make? What's the timeline on this?
So I think I started drawing it around like autumn 2023, but I'd written the script before that, so I can't. It's a bit difficult to remember, but
Yeah.
well, I basically started in 2023. I'm still in the process of making it, and like at this point, I'm halfway through the coloring stage, more or less.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's coming like there's still a lot of work to be done, but it's
Hmm.
coming closer. It's closer to the end than it has been
Has been
before.
okay. We're making progress. And can you explain like the different stages that you go through from? So you got the initial idea, you've outlined, and then from like the writing, you mentioned like storyboarding, sketching, coloring. What's the yeah? What are the steps in that for you?
So, I mean, in terms of like, because again, this is like for pitching to a publisher, like I
Mm.
wrote the synopsis, and then like outside of like, my normal process for, creating comics just for myself, I then had to, write at least the first few pages of script, then thumbnail and such, and then, create like some sample pages to actually send the publisher to pitch to see if they,
Yes.
actually want it or not. But then
Okay.
afterwards, when they accepted the pitch, then it's like a more straightforward creative process of like, fully writing the script, storyboarding, thumbnailing at the same time as well. Because like, I mean, for me at least, I I can't figure out what's going to be on a page without drawing it as well. Like I can't
Mm.
just like write the thing and then storyboard afterwards. It has to be done at the same time for me. Then once that was done, I started like pens like because I pencil and ink traditionally. So, I penciled everything, then inks everything, and then once the inks were done, scanned it all in, and then like started with well, in my case, I started with the lettering process first,
Mm.
just because then if a panel's too small to fit the speech bubble, then it's easier to move stuff around before everything's colored. And then once the lettering was done, then I started doing the coloring.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So you oh, it's interesting. You do the yeah, so like outlining and storyboarding as you go, getting those both done together.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Um, and is this the first thing that you've like pitched to a publisher, or is have you tried it before? Like, how was that process for you?
So technically not, because I've done like an anthologies with like other publishers before, like
Yeah.
Self-Made Hero. Although that was part of their graphic anthology program that they did, where I think creators of color could do like a comics mentorship course, and then we got our work in an anthology. So that was slightly different, but still. And then also for Quintry Press, like I did a short comic in an anthology with them that they published.
Yes,
So
that was a tilt, which I have some
yes,
on my shelf. Yeah.
oh, nice, nice. But yeah, so I did like I mean, Patchwork is my first time pitching like a long form work, but I have pitched like smaller, like short comics to publishers before.
Okay. And what do you feel is the difference between making that short form and then making something that's like longer? What would you say that major difference?
I'd say mainly it's just the amount of time and the amount of work that goes in, because obviously like a short comic is shorter. It doesn't take as long to finish it and everything. It's not as much time you have to spend doing it and everything. So I think that's mainly the main thing.
Yeah, and that is it. I guess yeah, narratively, like trying to hold that like together for a longer period and keep
Mm.
it interesting, keep the story engaging.
Yeah, I'd say so. And then I think something I've also noticed with working on Patchwork is that because the story is so much longer, you're staying with the same characters for longer as well. A lot of like, environments or clothes or tools or certain props will become recurring things that you then need to make sure stay consistent throughout the
Yeah.
story, and that are not always appearing like every single page throughout the story. So then it's like, okay, we're back in this room again. It's like, what did it look like again? I need to go back to pages like 27 or something to see what it looks like again, and then reference from that. So that's some that's something I haven't felt as much when I've done short comics, because generally, obviously, a lot less pages, and then like when I think about it, there's a lot less jumping between the same locations as well, because again, like a shorter story, like at least from what I've worked with before, it's normally like, stayed in one location for a little bit and then moved on to a new one, probably don't return to the old one, and then, such and such, and less clothing, potential outfit changes to keep track of as well. Like, I think clothing is another thing I really noticed about patchwork, because you know like, especially because patchwork is taking place over the course of a year, so the characters are not wearing the same clothing all of the time, but then of course they also, like, wear, like, re-wear some of the same outfits too,
Yeah.
especially because it's like in a historical sort of like fantasy world. So they're also wearing, like, they their wardrobes are not as big as they would be in the modern days. You don't have as many clothing. And
Yeah, they're
so
not.
that
Yeah,
was a lot
they're
of the
not going
stuff
to
I was having to
Uniqlo.
keep in mind. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, like, need, have to have some outfit changes, especially with changes in the seasons as well. But I should try and remember to repeat some outfits too, because like they're not going to have as many clothes and all that, and then there's all this stuff to keep. That, I think that's one of the main things I've noticed about a longer work. There's a lot more stuff to keep track of, and things you have to keep referencing back to, and to, like, maintaining consistency. And again, because patchwork takes over place over the course of a year, you need to start thinking about a lot more about seasonal changes as well. It's like, oh, they can't really wear this in the winter, or in the
That's a
summer
good
they should
point.
be wearing, like, like, less clothing as well, or shorter sleeves and such. So that gave me a lot to think about.
Ah, that's a really good point. Do you do? I guess you do like character sheets and then all and even like prop or item sheets, and you're going back to that, or how do you keep that
Uh,
consistent?
I don't really do any of that. I should maybe consider that for next time. But
Yeah.
my methods are very, like, very rough. Like, in terms of character designs, I do draw them before actually starting the actual comic artwork,
Yeah.
but they're very rough. It's like, rough, like, sketches and doodles in my sketchbook to, like, figure out
Okay.
what their face and their hair looks like, and then the bodies as well. And there's nothing very polished about it. It's just to, like, I can know what they look like, and then I move on to the comic. But like, I don't really do like polished, like, like character sheets where they're turned every
Yeah, yeah,
different
yeah.
way or anything like that, or like, you know and for like the different outfits as well, again, it was just like very, very rough, like, doodles.
Wow, yeah, because we do character sheets, but quite simple. And as you were talking about the clothing, even because I remember there's a one of our stories in particular, Hot Lunch, which is like a high story, and there's a sequence in it where oh man, I wish next time I should have my books here so I can actually research. There's a sequence where like characters are talking and it's snowing, and they've got like overalls on and everything, and we just did that just in the moment. So it's snowing, so they've got these clothes. I don't even remember what the clothes were necessarily. They weren't necessarily that detailed. But I'm now thinking actually, I should like give more attention to that kind of okay. What are the seasons that are going to take place? 'Cause I think I actually do that in the outline of like this time of year and everything, but I didn't think about what kind of clothing people. You just give me an idea. There you go. Cool. Just like keep better track of all that because I think it's one of those things that and not just in comics, but like film, like TV, it's those details where you won't necessarily like as a viewer, you won't necessarily notice because it's it's normal. Like we as people, we wear different clothes in the winter than we do in the summer. But it just adds to the world building, the realism of it. So it's cool that you take notice of that. I've seen that in your work. I noticed like in your work, I just got it on stream. You have, or at least in these pages, you've got the clothing's highlighted, or like certain bits are highlighted, and so I'm immediately drawn to the clothing. Was that? I imagine that was intentional. But what was the thinking behind that?
Wait, is there a specific work that you're looking at?
So I'm looking at you got the 4 pages, and I can see we've got the main character traveling through like a wooded location, and there's like close-ups
Ah,
of their clothing. But
yeah.
I'm just noticing like very like highlights sort of green, or I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what exact color that is, but a yellowy green kind of color on his clothing, and then the speech bubbles around him. So it's very much like drawing the
Mm-hmm.
attention to that.
Yeah, yeah. With patchwork, like the sort of conception I had for it is that it would be split into 4 acts, and then each act is like a season of the year. So the first, like it
Right.
starts like the first season that it start end up starting with is spring, and so these pages where he's wearing like the green outfit and such, that's the spring chapter,
Mm,
and so there'll be like elements of green throughout that particular chapter, whether it's clothing or other important things as well. And then for subsequent chapters, then was it summer is yellow, autumn is orange, and then winter is blue. So that was the kind of idea that I had for it, and like I wanted to use color in a more intentional way as well, like in this chapter to sort of highlight like Tian, like the main character, and make him stand out a bit more from the others as well.
okay. Okay. So all right. So seasons really do play a big role in like not just the sort of clothing, but the whole structure of the story. Yeah. Have you seen or not
Mm-hmm.
seen? Have you read? Oh, what was that? We did this for a podcast. Superman for All Seasons comic.
Uh, I haven't really
It's
read many
a
superhero comics.
Yeah, we did it. So it was a whole thing because I said I'm not necessarily the biggest Superman fan, and I know someone in a comic book shop. He disagreed with me, and he said I will give you a story that will change your mind. And it didn't necessarily change my mind. It's still not one of my favorite superheroes, but it was a really good story. But it was structured in so the idea is like different seasons, and it was tied. Each season was tied to a different character in Clark Kent's life. And it was nice. So he had like it just reminded me as you were talking, it had that kind of structure and different environments and everything for 4 different seasons. Now I'm just got me thinking about weather in comics. You're going to see like the mayamada comics going forward. Actually, you might actually see this, or have like weather play a bigger part. I like that idea. Um,
Mhm.
cool. And like, where do you get your inspiration, your ideas from? Like other comics, like life or film, TV? Like what inspires you to make the stories that you do?
For sure, like a range of things. Like I mean,
Mm,
other other comics, books, and like movies, TV, music, art, nature, and then also I think more specifically a lot of my own personal feelings or personal experiences as
mm,
well. Like I think like with patchwork, I think that sort of difficult relationship that Ezra has with his like father is like inspired a lot by my own personal experiences.
mm.
So I do draw a lot on that sort of thing as well.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I always feel like those good stories that have something of the creator in them, and then you sort of connect. Like
Mhm.
sort of I connect with that premise as well. So I feel that's a really good way to approach it. Um, so we're actually almost out of time. This has gone really quickly, but the I wanted to ask about again just working with publisher. I've just been interested and I've been speaking to people about it because our stuff is self-published, but I've been thinking about like yeah going that publisher route. And you talked a bit about pitching to a publisher and that process with the synopsis and everything. So at this stage, I guess, is it a case of like they're just like, let us know when it's done, and you said you've got a rough sort of timeline. Is the advantage of like the publisher, you've got someone who's going to go out and really put this book in places for it to be seen?
Yeah, I'd say so. And then I guess also just from like a practical standpoint as well, especially for something, say it's like long as Patchwork is, or like, really thick book, I obviously don't have to worry about like where to find the money to print like
Oh
physical
yeah.
copies of it or anything like that as well. And then, they're gonna take care of like getting it into bookshops and marketing it as well. So there's that aspect to it as well. Like obviously, obviously not that you can't ever self publish a
Yeah.
big thick like comic book. I mean, especially with stuff like Kickstarter nowadays, but
Mm.
there's obviously still like
It's an
harder as
expense.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and expense, and then you need to actually work out all the logistics to like how much money you're gonna need to get this book printed,
Mm.
shipping costs as well,
Mm.
and then all of those sort of logistics as well. Which, like, I mean, I'm not saying like don't do it. Absolutely not, because that's definitely if that works for you and you can work it out, that's great. But I guess I'm just saying, those are the sort of cons and pros of like
Yeah.
self-publishing or to go with a publisher as well. So, like,
Yeah, no, I get that. That's part of it as well, in that whole like marketing and stuff like that. Because it's about knowing what you can do, what are happy to let someone else do, and go through that process as well. So, no, good luck with that. And I know the I know the process of putting that something, well, not something that big, but definitely like longer story. So look forward to sort of seeing that done. And like with the live stream, I like to end with a bonus round. And what happened is that because people started coming back, so you're one of a growing number of people who have had like a second appearance on this. I had to think of a different bonus round. So I typically ask people sort of questions around like life as a story, and ask them about like the protagonist. So I actually went back and like because you said like you described yourself as a protagonist that's very hardworking, focused intensely on tasks, and then like your antagonist is like not enough time to not enough time to do anything. I imagine that's still the case.
yeah.
Um, yeah, biggest like supporting characters and what success looks like. And you actually said like success is publishing bigger projects such as graphic novels, which here you are. So that's progress. But because we already did that, I had to come up with other questions. So I then came up with questions around this idea of world building and your character arc. So to end with this quick-ish fire round of questions, thinking about the world that you're in, how would you describe it, and what surprises you about that world that you're in?
I'd say the world I'm in right now is quite a scary place. Just like thinking about the wider sort of world and like everything happening
Mm.
right now. And sorry, could you remind me the rest of the question again?
Oh, and what was my So and what surprises you about it?
Uh, I guess what surprises me maybe about it is that, and I guess just like not to toot my own horn, but my own capacity to keep like to keep going on,
Mm.
really, like with everything that's happening, and then also with everything going on like in my own life as well. Just like I think my own ability to just keep pressing on
Yeah,
regardless.
yeah, that's a good. It's a very much anime trope of like just keep going, never give up kind of situation. I feel that. What's been the biggest plot twist of your creative career, and how has it changed the direction that you've gone in, if at all?
Uh, I guess probably getting contacted by Jonathan Cape asking if I had any graphic novel ideas because until then, like I was still doing my short comics. I didn't actually have any, I think, you know, have any plans to like pitch a graphic novel or come up
Mm,
with like a graphic novel or like I don't know. I think I couldn't even see myself doing something like that or being, capable of something like that. And so that was quite a surprise to me. And yeah, I think
mm,
that
yeah.
that's definitely one of the biggest plot twists. And then I think another plot twist that happened after, like not too long after, was my agent contacted me. She wasn't my agent at that point, but she contacted me, asked, like saying, "Oh, she'd seen my work around, it was really cool," and then asking if I was represented. So those are two pretty like big plot twists of my
Yeah,
creative career.
that's cool. So they came to you.
Mm. Yeah, and like
Nice.
I wasn't expect at a time like I wasn't expecting or even like seeking it out at that point, so
Yeah,
it was quite a surprise to me.
cool. Nice. All right. Yeah, definitely a plot twist. And how has conflict shaped you as an artist and a character in this
Conflict,
story? Yeah.
uh, conflict, how it's shaped me. I guess it's made me, I don't know, determined to live my life the way that I wanted to, regardless of what like certain people may think of me, or if they think I'm, not making the right choices in
Mm.
life. So, like, I'm determined to live my life the way I want it to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel that. I always feel like, especially with like creative careers and comics, is such like it's not necessarily a structured career path like
Yeah.
I don't know, medicine or engineering, but
Mm,
and you have to see it for yourself, and that kind of then inherently means other people won't necessarily see, otherwise they'd be doing it as well, right? So yeah, I
mm,
feel that you have to sort of believe in what you're doing, and then not let other people, or not let the wrong outside sort of thoughts come in and mess that up. Totally get that. And last question, and if you could rewrite any part of your journey so far, what would you change and why?
mm. Maybe in some cases when I haven't, like, I think usually in past, like, jobs,
Mm,
like whether it's employed jobs or like freelance jobs I've taken on where I haven't, advocated for myself or had the confidence to like to push back and
mm,
to be seen as like troublesome basically
mm,
because back then I was quite like I was younger, I was like fresh out of uni or like relatively early in my career, and it's like you don't want to be seen as like difficult
yeah, rock the
or
boat.
like yeah, to rock the boat or anything. And so I haven't felt confident enough to advocate for myself. And so if there was one thing I'd change, it'd probably be like be that. It's like it's like okay, it's like these people suck. You can like stand up for yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get that. Actually, I was thinking about this just this week. I had a situation with something we're working on where sort of had to be. I say like be demanding is the phrase that I heard, and just in a respectful way, but also let people know when things have been done wrong, and that was an experience. But then I got the result that you wanted, and I think then people sort of understand, like you say, you're not the person you used to be, and treat you accordingly. So yep, that's a good rewrite in there. So cool, and that's the end. That was the end of another episode of Casual Conversations with comic creators. Thank you for indulging me in another bonus round and coming back as well for a live stream. I'll just keep dragging people back every so often. So yeah, no, thank you for your time, and yeah, good to see like the progress, especially because you are on that progress of what you said last time. You're doing the thing that you said last time as well. So that's really cool.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me back. It's like, it was really great to chat with you and everything.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and yeah, appreciate people listening. Always hello Paladin in the chat. Appreciate people listening now. Later, we might do an audio, put audio of this on the podcast. We do that every so often as well. Yeah, thank you to a special shout out to Pro Gamers Group UK for their generous support in providing us with a bunch of equipment like the mic I am speaking on. So we've got the Stupefy Mic Pro, we got the lighting as well, and the chair, the Nigel Concepts chair. So all that helps us do this basically. So speak to people, make it look and sound hopefully professional. We also use it for our, as well as our live streams, our workshops, and as we record, we've got a workshop tomorrow. So I'm going to be packing all this up, introducing it to some young people, getting them to record some podcast episodes as well. We use it for our Do I Look Like a Gamer campaign events to record things as well. So it all helps us create a better experience for the community and the people that are watching. So very appreciative of their support as we continue our push for diversity and inclusion, and getting young aspiring creatives to better understand the world of content creation. So as for us, you can join our Discord. We have a Discord. We are in the what has turned out to be a slow moving process of redoing some aspects of the brand, including the website, including the Discord. But it's turned out to be a busy year. I probably should have seen that coming, but it is what it is. But we are in the process of changing all stuff around. But you can join the Discord. You can follow us on Twitch and on YouTube, because we do the whole dual streaming. So we're out on Twitch and YouTube. This stays on Twitch for 14 days. I think it stays on YouTube. I don't know. YouTube have got that infinite storage space, so it stays on there forever. But yeah, so you can take your pick. You can also check out the Story X Story podcast. We are back for the rest of season 7, in fact. So we just did our episode on Fantastic Four. We've got Superman coming up, so we're going to be talking about that. We've got some anime stuff coming up later this month as well. So yeah, check out that. You can subscribe. We do deep dives into stories across pop culture. We do video game discussions and interviews, kind of like this, but without the visuals. So you can check that out. That is all from us for now. We will see you again next month for another episode of Casual Conversations with Comic Creators. So take care, everyone. See you next time.